Welcome to another video from Demystifying Proposals, making proposals make sense. In this discussion of proposal disasters, we're going to talk about cost volume size and the lessons learned from having your cost volume be too big for email submission. Obviously, a major factor in whether your cost volume gets too big is the cost volume requirements. Cost volumes are almost never page limited. And the cost volume instructions are sometimes vague, right? Do you need to include all of the tables from the pricing spreadsheet in your narrative? Are you being judged by cost realism or cost reasonableness? If it's cost realism, is your price too low to get the work done? So how do you justify your pricing from that perspective? If it's cost reasonableness, is your price too high compared to what the government's estimate of the work that needs to be done was? So that can be a factor in how big your cost volume gets. But then there are certain customers that require the cost volume to include not only your pricing and a justification for it, but documentation from your team, such as teaming agreements or evaluation of the cost reasonableness of the sub's pricing, and other documents as the instructions require. So your cost volume might become a problem when you have to include the subcontractor's information in your cost volume. And most of that documentation is in PDFs, and you copy that documentation into your cost volume as pictures, then you could create a file that can't be submitted because it's too large. I was working at a company that did a lot of work with USAID, and USAID cost volumes required that all subcontractors' teaming agreements, pricing, and sometimes the signatures on resumes submitted with the cost volume. And because we had dozens of partners, the files to be submitted with all the subs info included far exceeded the email limit. But we didn't realize it until we were putting the cost volume together on the day before submission. And the scramble to figure out how to make the file small enough for submission was not pretty. One possible solution to our conundrum, or a lesson learned from our experience, would be to do a dry run of the complete cost volume at Gold Team. Not just ensuring you have all the parts and pieces that you're going to need, and not just having reviewers confirm that all those parts and pieces are compliant, but actually putting together the cost volume to know how much time it's going to take once all the pricing is final, since that's not something that's ready usually until the very end of the proposal development process, and to know how big the file will be with all the component parts included. Then at least you know what you're dealing with. Another possible solution is to consider merging the subcontractor's teaming agreements and other data after you've created the cost volume PDF with all of your company's information. You can merge the PDFs together as PDFs. You will need to have Adobe Professional to do this, but then you can manually add headers and footers similar to what you have on the rest of the document. Again, you'll need Adobe Professional to do this, and if you don't know how to do it, you should practice it well in advance. But this way, you can combine the PDFs as PDFs, and the file size will be significantly smaller than if you import the subcontractor's information as graphics. We hope that you enjoy these lessons learned from Demystifying Proposals.